Welcome. Today we are talking about fuel and foundation. Um, because so many of us want to be able to do big things, and we want to be able to do big things while neglecting and starving and depriving our bodies. And that's not how any of this works. So today, we're going to be talking how to fuel your body and how to build a foundation so that your body is on the level you want it to be so that it can carry your calling, so that you can live your life, so that you can be present with your people and go do the fun things that you want to do. Inbuilt for this, which is where I am teaching this class live in my mastermind. This is not about dieting. It's not about strictly aesthetics. Now, if you want to change your aesthetics, that's totally cool. I'm over here working on my aesthetics too. But it's so much deeper than that. And so um, I want to discuss the roundedness of the approach that we need to take, because we cannot hate ourselves into something that we love. This is not about perfection, and that's part of what we're going to discuss today. Something else this is not about is perfection. We are not here to make an A plus in certain categories. Um, this is about showing up consistently, even if that consistency is extremely messy. I like to use the example of, like, I pay my bills consistently, which is once a month. I get my tag renewed on my car consistently, which is once a year, right? Consistency does not mean it has to be an everyday, 2 hours a day, whatever it is. It does not have to be perfection. In fact, that all or nothing mentality has held a lot of us back because we feel like a failure as soon as we're not perfectly consistent. This is about building a body that can recover quickly, that can think clearly, and can lead with passion and with grace. So now I want to ask, and you can drop in the chat if you're here or in the comments if you're watching the replay, are you currently, and just based on your current opinion of these things, are you under eating? Are you under hydrating and over caffeinating? Are you under sleeping? Are you expecting your body to perform like a machine with no inputs? Because that's been me in my life. You better do what I want you to do, no matter what. Like, I was always so aggravated with my body if it couldn't do what I wanted it to do, but I wasn't taking into account that I was not giving it the tools it needed. I wasn't giving it the sleep, the nourishment, the hydration. I wasn't giving it everything that it needed to perform at the level I wanted it to perform. And then I was mad at it for not performing on that level. Let's see. And Chrissy said, yes, 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 no. So you are under eating, under sleeping, over caffeinating, but not expecting your body to perform like a machine. So that part is good, at least. Um, and again, I want to hit again on the we don't have to get an A plus. And actually, I was already kind of thinking of a way to say this. And then a friend of mine, Shannon Stockwell, posted on Facebook. She's incredible. If you don't follow her, go follow her. Um, Posted about the perfectionism, needing the A plus, like I have to eat exactly this. If you're here, tell me if you've done ridiculous count every calorie, measure every single thing that you eat diet. And like it had to be spot on. And as soon as you cheated, you were just, oh, I have failed. I can't see, I can't do this. Right. And so we have this all or nothing mentality, or like maybe you worked out and it had to be 3 days a week. And as soon as you missed a few days because you were sick, then all of a sudden, oh, well, I failed. Right. And so here, what I want to talk about is getting a B in everything. Ooh, us A plus girlies don't like to hear that. I want you to aim for a B in multiple categories versus an A plus in one or two categories. We're going to be way much better off if we can hit a B in all of our foundational categories rather than an A plus in one or two. Okay. We were trained, and this is part of the problem here. We were trained to value thinness over strength, especially in the 90s, early 2000s. This was very much thinness over strength, thinness before health. Like it was just thinness is health, regardless of how you have to get there. That's what health is you got to be thin. We were trained to value productivity over recovery, and we can't recover if we don't ever rest. We have to be able to recover. And so many of us, like, let me know if you're here and, or like I said, if you're watching the replay and you are very anxious when you're forced to rest. Like if you get sick for a few days and you're down or longer, God forbid it's a couple of weeks that you really can't function. Then all of a sudden you're so anxious. You don't like you I've got to get up, I've got to do stuff. I can't just lay here and rest. We were also trained to value stimulation over nourishment. We were trained to value dopamine hits over actually nourishing our bodies. Okay. So now we have inflamed joints. We have dysregulated hormones. We have very intense brain fog. Like everyone is saying to me they can't remember shit. Everyone is saying that. Um, you're not alone. And now we also have emotional volatility. And honestly, the first three things very much contribute to the last one. Inflamed joints, dysregulated hormones, brain fog, that is going to contribute to emotional volatility. Like it is all so intertwined. Okay. And this is happening not because we're weak, but because we are under fueled, undernourished. Chrissy said, that's me, foggy all the time, joint pain and stiffness. Yes, and you are not alone. You're not alone, and it's not a moral failing. And you're not, I just want to say to anyone who is here and feeling that, or maybe like me, you've been diagnosed with like some autoimmune stuff. Like I have the hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos, so I have I like to call it a connective tissue issue instead of a disorder. Um, or like with Chrissy, she has fibromyalgia. A lot of people out here are being diagnosed with heads and fibro. Um, right. So picky, not sure what I can and can't or shouldn't eat. Well, and it's getting harder to know because so much of our food isn't food anymore, and we'll have a whole other lesson on that. But today I want to talk about the four categories that I want you to get a B in. Remember, we're not trying to get an A plus. This is not about perfection. This is about consistently doing what we can. Just consistently doing what we can to fuel and nourish our physical body, which also is nourishing our brains. Okay. All right. So the first category is food. I and I'm going to have a whole nother class on building a different relationship with food, but food needs to be fuel and not some sort of punishment or, um, we have so much disordered eating, as women and have restricted so much in our lives. And like I said, counted every single, the term almond mom is really common now because a lot of our mothers were sitting around eating six almonds, drinking Slim Fast instead of eating meals. And raise your hand if you grew up in the Slim Fast era. It's not good. It's not good. And I'm not saying Slim Fast is terrible for you. I'm saying not eating is terrible for you. Right. Chrissy said me. Absolutely. Yes. And it was a damaging time to be alive. And honestly, a lot of that is coming back. So we're talking first food as fuel and not punishment, protein is non-negotiable. And if you're here live, you know that I'm already preaching this like crazy. But protein is non-negotiable. If you want to be healthy, if you want your bones and your muscles to be healthy, if you want your mind to be healthy, you have to eat protein and you need to eat it often. At every single meal, you need to be eating it. You probably need to be eating more protein than you think. I just recently like calculated with my dad how much he needs to be eating, and he was blown away at like watching it like spell out how much he would have to eat in a day to get the amount of protein that he needs for a 6'3" man. Um, and so with protein, you need to have a gram for every pound that you weigh. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you need to be eating 200 grams of protein a day. And that is, again, that is a non-negotiable, especially if you want to build muscle. If you are trying to get stronger, protein is absolute king. It is key. Got to do it. Also, blood sugar stability equals emotional stability. Now, I come from trauma work and a master's degree in counseling psychology. So I almost went the therapy route. So when I say emotional stability is something that I have concentrated so much on the brain for, and I've studied so much of it, and there is a lot we can do with the brain with our attachment work, all of that stuff. There is a lot we can do as far as emotional stability, but we'll never be emotionally stable if we're constantly putting our body in fight or flight. We will never get the emotional stability if our blood sugar is all over the place and we're starving ourselves and everything else. Okay. Under eating increases our anxiety on a cellular level. And restriction weakens the connective tissue recovery. So, especially if you have joint pain, we've got to make sure we're not like, I've seen so much about like working out after fasting, and I used to do it. I would get up at 4 in the morning before my 6 a.m. shift and go to the gym on no food at all, hadn't had anything since the dinner before and like the dinner the night before. And that is actually over time, I'm putting myself in a hole with it. I wasn't building muscle at all at the time. In fact, I was causing more damage to myself. So ask yourself, am I eating enough to build? Am I eating enough to heal myself? Or are you eating to shrink yourself? Now, and I'm not saying it's not okay to want to lose fat on your body and want to lose weight. That is totally okay. Everybody gets to do what they want with their body. But are you just eating to shrink, or are you eating to get healthy, to heal, and to build? Because you probably know, if you're here watching this, that muscle burns fat. So building muscle will literally help you lose that fat. Now, so aim for protein at every meal. If you can, make sure you have a breakfast, especially if you're out here crashing at 2 p.m., right? Eat that breakfast and stop. And this is a hard one. I had to stop this 3 years ago, and I'm very proud of it. But stop using caffeine as a meal replacement. Just because it gives you energy doesn't mean it's giving your body actual fuel. Again, could be putting yourself in a hole. Okay. Now, the second category, sleep. Okay. This is the most underrated steroid. Okay. Stay with me on this. Your growth hormone spikes while you are sleeping, and that growth hormone is everything. It's what's keeping us it literally helps keep us younger. Okay. If we don't get that growth hormone, we will age like milk, baby. It's not good. Emotional regulation improves with sleep. If we start getting sleep deprived, the emotional regulation is not, I don't care how much therapy you've been through. If you're not getting any sleep, you're gonna be dysregulated. You're gonna be all over the place. You're gonna be volatile. Um, Pain tolerance improves with sleep. Like literally, your tolerance for handling the pain in your daily life improves if you are getting enough sleep. And also, lack of sleep increases the perceived stress. So you're going to be just way more anxious in your life if you are not getting quality sleep. So ask yourself, here's the ask on that one is, are you how many tomorrows are you sabotaging tonight? Okay. Like how many tonights have you enjoyed that have actually sabotaged your tomorrow? And I've done it too. I'm definitely not speaking from a place of I've never done this and you shouldn't. No, I'm speaking from a place of I have worked on these things and it has changed my life. It has changed my life. So obviously the practical advice here is to try to get a like consistent sleep. If you have like a consistent window, I don't mean like give yourself a Betty by time that you have to stick to. Um, but to have some consistency when you sleep. Let's see, Chrissy said too many. I average about 4 to 5 hours of sleep and not good sleep. It's broken sleep. Yes, Chrissy, that is a big one that we need to work on with you for sure. We need to work on that one big time. Also, if it is something that is a temptation for you and keeps you from sleeping, put your phone out of reach. Put it on the dresser a little bit farther away from the bed so you can't just reach out and grab it. Magnesium is a good thing to take if like a supplement to take if you need to, like if you're having a hard time sleeping. So I do recommend that. And of course, if you need to have white noise, if you need to have your room dark, and you need to get blackout curtains or whatever it is necessary. And so anything you have to do to get yourself to be having a good sleep routine is not, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not selfish. It's not consumerism. It's do what you need to do, get what you need to get to be able to sleep properly. You're going to be better at everything in your whole life if you're getting proper sleep. All right, now the third category of hydration, and this is to me, the simplest win, like the simplest way to really up level everything is hydrating and knowing what you again this is knowing yourself, knowing your body, knowing your routines. What do you need to be able to properly hydrate yourself every day? It doesn't have to be an entire gallon of water every day, but if it was, that would be good. um like if you're at a desk job and you need to take two big old water bottles full of water with you, and or whatever it is, if you hate drinking just regular water and you need to put lemon juice in it, whatever it is, or the little flavored packets. I also love putting sea salt in my water, especially like if I'm behind on my sodium, I put sea salt in my water, which I highly, highly, highly recommend using the sea salt in your water. And it's just a little bit. You don't want it to taste overly salty. We're not trying to drink the ocean here, but just enough sea salt to have the sodium, the potassium, like everything, those minerals help your body to actually use the water instead of just peeing it all out. So it's going to send it to your joints. It's going to send it to your muscles, to your organs. To your skin, right? Which is an organ, but it's going to send that water where it needs to go rather than just peeing it out if you put a little bit of sea salt in the water. Highly, highly, highly recommend. So dehydration increases fatigue and irritability. Believe it or not, if you're really irritable, might be dehydrated. Your muscles are going to cramp way easier. You're going to have a way harder time working out and recovering if you are not hydrated. In fact, that's my biggest rule. That and eating. But those are my two biggest rules is if you have not eaten properly and you are not hydrated, if you are dehydrated and cramping up, we don't go to the gym like that. Can't. We've got to hydrate and eat before, or we will not get anything done. We're not going to do anything good. And that's also when you injure yourself. Um, Also, headaches increase if you're dehydrated. That's one of the first things for me, is I will get like my neck will get really tight and I'll start getting a headache if I am not getting enough water that day. Joints will feel stiffer and more inflamed and more unstable if you are dehydrated. So, my practical advice for these is drink water before coffee, even if you want it to be warm water. Or one of my clients is currently doing a hot, like she likes her hot drink in the mornings, is doing a bone broth, which of course is a lot of water and it's going to help with hydration and a lot of other things. But she's doing a hot cup of bone broth in the morning, homemade, so it tastes really good, before her coffee and maybe even instead of coffee. So, highly recommend that. Add electrolytes, especially if you are training hard. Most of us need electrolytes anyway. We don't get a whole lot of it. So if you are training hard, highly recommend adding the electrolytes if you can. And then aim if you can. Now, this is something I'm still not good at, y'all. So I'm not trying to, again, I'm not trying to preach from a pedestal here. Aim for consistent intake and not random chugging. I'm terrible about the random chugging. I'll be like, oh my God, I need to get water, and I'll go drink a whole bottle and then I won't touch anything for, a couple hours. And if we can have more consistent drinking, we'll be way better off. Okay. And then the fourth category is supplements. I want to keep this simple because we've already discussed, especially in my mastermind, like kind of what supplements do what. Um, it's important to kind of, if you don't take any supplements, to start small. Or this is another thing where it's like, I got to get an A+ on it. And if I don't, then I'm just not going to do it. And, yeah, so I want you to be able to just as you try out new things and adding in new things, seeing what your body responds to, and maybe even adding one or two at a time, so okay, this affected me this way, this one affected me that way, versus starting five new supplements and you don't know which one is helping you, but something feels good. Like, it's okay to do this trial and error process. Okay. But a few that I very, very much recommend: vitamin D. Most all of us are deficient in our vitamin D. As women, most all of us are deficient in our iron. Now, go get you a mineral panel, honey. Go get you some blood work done if you want to. So you can kind of verify these things. But things that I take: vitamin D, I take iron, I take magnesium, I take fish oil, and I very much recommend, if you need to supplement your protein, to do a protein powder. I also, if you would like, I can send you links to the protein that I use. And then vitamin C is a huge one. If I start to feel like I'm getting sick, like, that little scratch in your throat that's like, oh shit, I'm definitely getting sick, I double up my vitamin C, honey, until it's passed. And it has helped me so much. I've had to take so much less antibiotics in the last 3 years because I've been doing this instead. My entire system has been way healthier doing vitamins rather than waiting till I'm sick and then taking antibiotics. Just way better for my system. Um, Let's see. Oh, and I did want to say one more thing about the vitamin D. They just have recently found that you can't take too much vitamin D. The extra vitamin D in your system gets turned into muscle. What? Oh no. Like, oh no, I would hate that. But so if you think oh no, I shouldn't take two vitamin D, because that's what I do. I take two vitamin D a day. Um, it's going to your muscles, baby. That's okay. That's good. So, now they don't, again, the supplements are here to support you. They're not going to carry you, if you're not eating and not hydrating. Gotta still do all those things. They don't replace that behavior, that we still need to have to be healthy. Okay. All right. Now, let's see on the B+. So yeah, I want you to kind of start observing kind of where you were at. So like, if you had to grade yourself now, tell me in the chat, guys, if you want to. Um, how have what would I grade myself on this past week? How was my eating? How was my sleeping, and how was my hydrating? Where would you give yourself an A, B, C, D, or F? on how you ate, slept, and hydrated this week. Let's see. And Chrissy said I'd be in the bathroom all day if I drank a gallon of water. Right. Well, and we do need to be peeing often, but we don't need to be if you add that sea salt, you shouldn't be peeing as much as you're peeing if you're not if you're not using that sea salt. Like if you have the sea salt in there, you shouldn't be peeing out all of the water that you drink. Your body should be using it. Let's see. Okay, Chrissy said I'd give myself a C minus. Okay, what is the C minus on? Is that all three or one of those categories? The eating, sleeping, or hydrating? All three. Okay, okay. Well, that's good. It's just information. This is just information. None of this is a moral, like we're not going to make it mean anything. This is just knowing where we're at. It's just information. So that's really good to know, Chrissy. And let's see. Okay, so I want to talk about the emotional piece of this because we're here to build mental, emotional, and physical strength all together. And so I want to talk about like our identity here in this and the emotional piece. Um, and I want you to ask yourself and tell me in the chat if you can, why is it easier to show up for everyone else than it is to show up for yourself and your body? Let's see. And Kay said sleep and hydration. A, food pretty balanced and dialed in. Excellent, Kay. That's excellent. I'm so glad to hear that. Wonderful. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, so ask yourself, why is it easier to show up for everyone else than it is for my body? Another question to ask yourself, and feel free, I can drop these in the chat. Let's see, Chrissy said for a long time I did not deem myself as important as others. Yeah, and that's on such a deep level, Chrissy. And I love that you said for a long time I didn't, which means you don't feel that way anymore. And I'm so glad to hear that because you are just as important as anybody else. You deserve to be taken care of as much as anybody else does. Okay, second question. Why do you feel guilt when you rest? And I do too. Like, I know the answers, but like, let's reflect. We know the answers to this. Yeah, well, because you're a busybody and because especially as women, if we are like there's just this whole concept of like our worth is tied to our productivity and what we're getting done and what we're contributing to the world. And so if we're resting, we're not contributing and we have low worth. But also for a lot of us, the taking care of others and, being the busybody is a way to cope. Um, and is a good way to like silence our mind. A lot of us like clean and go do things and take care of other people as a way um to like process and help our own like anxiety and depression and stuff like that. And it can be a really good tool. Um Let's see. Kay said, my own health has been my top priority for 3 years, working on embracing actual fuck off everybody. Uh, oh yeah, fuck off everybody rest. I am super sick today and fuck the world. I'm chilling. Hell yeah. I'm glad to hear that you were just chilling today as you were super sick. And I am sorry to hear that you were super sick though. I hate that, but I am glad that you're resting and just being like everybody can fuck off. Okay. Now, let's see what else I wanted to go over with you guys. I'm just going to say again that fueling yourself, nourishing your body is not selfish. It's leadership. You cannot lead or take care of other people from a place of depletion. And you certainly don't want to be an example to the people you are leading or taking care of self-neglect because you don't want them to neglect themselves, right? And so the best thing we can do is model taking care of ourselves and nourishing ourselves so that the people that we are leading and taking care of will see, okay, I need to do the same thing. We don't need to take care of everyone around us to the point that we're like, oh, you don't have to take care of yourself. Let me do it. No, everyone needs to have the skill to be able to nourish themselves. And if not, we're weakening them, we're crippling them. Um, let's see. And Chrissy said I could use assistance on meals and prep, please. Yes, and we can discuss that for sure. Yes. Um, let's see. Okay. And as far as an integration, I had thought about doing an integration, kind of an exercise, but we kind of already rated ourselves today. But ask yourself, where am I under fueling? Where am I overstimulating? Because part of the input here is what you are consuming mentally, like social media and the doom scrolling, watching news all the time when it's nothing but bad news. Like where am I overstimulating myself and wearing out my brain and my nervous system? And where am I under fueling my nervous system at the same time? And then ask yourself, what is one like B plus upgrade that you will commit to this week? Um, so if you felt like you have made C's in the last week, where can you, and just one, you don't have to try to up all three of them this week, but just focus on one to commit to this week. Keep it small. Don't overwhelm yourself. Just one of them. Okay. And then I want to remind you as we close here that you do not build an unshakable nervous system and a healthy body on a protein bar and 4 hours of sleep. Okay. You do not build structural strength in your body on caffeine and high vibes. Okay. You build it on fuel. And I know that this topic isn't so much, we'll get fun in the next class. We'll get fun on some things. But this is the foundation that is absolutely critical. If this foundation is not built, nothing else is going to stick. Nothing else is going to be feasible if we cannot get our foundation built in a steady way. And again, it doesn't have to have no cracks. Okay. It doesn't have to have there, it does not have to be perfect, but we need to be able to keep this foundation strong, and then we build on it and we build with it. Okay. And that's a wrap on the class. So if you have any questions, drop them in the chat or in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And then we'll be talking on the next class. It may be the one we're talking about, like zooming in on the food, but I will let you guys know soon.